Hey, everybody. Welcome to our podcast. Joined as always by David Swor. I am DJ Cox. And David, we got a good one tonight. We've been waiting for this one for a long time. We're excited to finally have him now. Former teammate of ours, former roommate of mine, Matt Locklear has joined the show tonight. Matt, it's great to have you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Glad to be here.
Hey, Matt, I just got to know right out of the gate, were you the air band drummer or were you the guitar player?
The roles switched a few times, but my preferred spot was on the drums.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, definitely.
Jason Hart was the lead singer. I would be on the guitar, and I would one time occasionally, if here and there, I'd be the one-handed drummer.
So it seems like if Hart was the lead singer, it seems like it was a real dark, maybe grunge type band. I mean, is that where we were headed? I never saw the band.
It had an angry feel to it, if you can imagine.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
There's no doubt about it. Yes, with Jason as the lead singer, it would be nothing else but that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome, man. One of the many memories that we have together for sure. That was a lot.
Oh yeah. Lots of them.
Good times, man, for sure. So David, we'll get right to the baseball. We will talk about Matt and his career later on in the show. I wanted to kick us off before we start getting into the playoffs here, David. There has been a couple managers that are already done before the playoffs are over, and this doesn't happen too frequently. I mean, there are some managers who get it like the week, a couple weeks afterwards, but there was a few that just happened really fast. And the first one we'll talk about, David, is the Padres one, and this one we kind of talked about a couple podcasts ago, how we kind of saw that this might happen with Jace Tingler and the Padres disaster. 2 years. He lost control of the clubhouse. They were fighting. They finished below 500 with that team that they had on paper. Unbelievable. But David, I think it all leads back to Bruce Bochy. So what are your thoughts on them letting Jace go?
Yeah, I'm sure the dude's a nice guy, but he deserved this one. I told you guys on the last podcast, the most surprising thing to the baseball season was looking down and seeing that the Padres were under 500. Not just that they didn't make the playoffs, but that they were distant from the playoffs. And so I think this had to happen. DJ, I'm kind of pulling for Ron Washington on this one, just to be honest with you. I think, he's a really good manager, third base coach right now for the Braves. And, he had some struggles there that got him out of managing. He's a hot name for this job. Another hot name actually is Aaron Boone. I don't know if you've been reading that or not, but yeah. So the Yankees have until after the World Series to re-sign Boone or negotiate with him. Not sure how that's going to pan out, but that's a name that's been mentioned. But I'm totally on board with them letting him go. What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, I think it was a good move. I do think Bruce Bochy is going to win this. I still somehow feel like he's coming back, which leads me to a question. Since Bruce Bochy has the biggest head I've ever seen in my entire life, maybe with Barry Bonds, I think this is an easy answer, and I'm going to ask both of you. Who do you think had the biggest physical head on our baseball team? Matt, who do you think had that?
Rule of paw.
Yeah, Big Tater. I mean, come on.
I put that one on a tee for you. That had to be easy, right?
Yeah. Is this a trick question?
Yeah, you don't get the nickname Big Tater without having the biggest tater.
Bruce Bochy, I think, has close to a size 8 hat. I wonder how he got Jim to get. I don't know how Coach ended up getting Jim's hats for him, man. That's something we have to ask him one day, because Jim had to have close to an 8 hat. They just don't make those things, man. So I don't know how that even was physically possible for him to fit in a hat, but
yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, I did not hear that. So what's the Aaron Boone thing? I don't really understand that, David. So you think that the Yankees will let him go?
I don't think the Yankees will let him go, but I think he's got a pretty good negotiating ploy if he wants it. That's what I'll say about that. I mean, when you got the Padres supposedly very interested in you, it'd be real easy to walk away. Let's just be honest. San Diego, it's a lot nicer city than New York. The pressure's not going to be there. So I could understand, from his standpoint, why he would want that job. I think the Yankees will bring him back. Part of me is hoping that they don't, just to be honest with you. But I think there's a pretty good chance he ends up back in New York.
So, Matt, I want to ask you, with the Padres and all the moves they made this offseason, they've got one of the best young stars in the game in Fernando Tatis Jr. They got Manny Machado. They got Hosmer, who's a World Series hero. They've got a ton of talent on that team. All that pitching they brought in. Was that the biggest disappointment in the MLB for you this year?
Well, it was one of those, I would say it's the biggest question marks I had, following the season, because I kept hearing how you keep hearing some of the reports, seeing the records, seeing some of their performances, and wondering, man, when they're going to break out? When are they really going to come through and kind of live up to these expectations? And so, but yeah, I mean, I would suppose so. I mean, I followed them, a little bit here and there, but I just kept up with the scores and, some of the reports that, like I said, but probably if it was I would say one of the biggest question marks. So it was kind of like, now how did they not perform at a higher, I mean, even be more of a contender than what they were? I think they started out pretty strong.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of fell off. And that's what, speaking of Tingler, I kind of wonder, I read something about him, losing control of the clubhouse. How does it go to that, to that place? How does it get there, and how do you manage that and keep that from happening? And whether or not that was the real source of, why they decided, hey, we got to go in a different direction, I don't know. I would think so, but yeah, definitely. If not the biggest upset, definitely the biggest question mark.
So I know how hard it is from a high school standpoint to keep, the clubhouse intact with, 20 different guys and keeping them all on board together. I can't imagine, guys, how hard that is with all these MLB egos, and it's got to be hard. And, Jace Tingler seems like a real good guy, but he's got a lot of egos on that team, man. There is a ton of them, and it just kind of fell apart for him. And I don't know how that happens. I don't know how you gain control back of that. It's probably why there's only a few managers who keep circling and all these jobs that, open up, because maybe they know how to do it. I don't know, but it seems like every time there's a job opening, it's the same guys. And it's a huge part of it is keeping that clubhouse real. So I don't know, David, what are your thoughts on that?
I was actually going to ask you to expound on that a little bit because, you guys know I'm a big college football fan. West Virginia is dealing with this right now. They've got upheaval on their team. It's mutiny, basically. So I was actually going to ask you the same question, DJ. Like, I really can't get my arms around that, how that happens, what the causes of it. How do you walk it back? Can you walk it back? I mean, maybe if you could go a little bit deeper on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've had situations where I feel like it's happened both ways. Sometimes you honestly, you cut your ties on some players, you let them go, and then the whole clubhouse just is way better. And it's unfortunate it has to go that far sometimes, but sometimes there's cancers in the clubhouse, and then on an MLB roster, you can't do that with a guy who's making $40 million a year. You can't just release a guy like that. You can cut a guy like that in high school and just get rid of them all out. And, if that's not the case, where it's not completely that, maybe a few guys fighting, you try your best to sit them down, talk to them one-on-one, have them address the team and go from there. And sometimes that works out. Sometimes it doesn't. The teams it works out on tend to do a whole lot better than the teams that it doesn't. And chemistry is a huge thing in baseball, man. It really is. Like, if you don't get along on the field, most of the time that's trouble. It really is. And if you got the team clicking, it matters, man. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about roundabout ways. Like, I even have those guys kind of work out together after they've had a spat. He's your partner for the day. And they kind of just get back to being teammates again. And, because I'm sure we did this too in college. Like, we all had like, hey, he's your hitting partner, your throwing partner. Well, mix it up, like, you got 20 teammates. You don't need to throw at the same guy every day. You don't need to hit the same guy every day. Like, that's how you become a good teammate, is, hang out with all of them. And that's kind of something I expound upon, is just, those guys need to focus on their relationship to get better for the whole team. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but just kind of a couple little points there. But so, guys, another guy that went out this week, Luis Rojas of the Mets. And David, I kind of forgot about this a little bit, but he was kind of given the job because Carlos Beltran fell out through the Astros scandal. So Beltran was given the keys, and then it fell apart, and Rojas stepped in. And he was outmatched the entire time with the Mets. Let's be honest. He seems like a real good guy, honestly, but just did not do what they expected him to do. Was overmatched a lot, got out coached a lot. So some of the names that I'm hearing for the Mets, David, are Bob Melvin, which that's one you brought to my attention from the A's. Carlos Beltran to actually come back and get this job. That was something I read interesting today. Buck Showalter, 65 years old, hasn't managed since 2018. But here we go with this circling back to guys that have done this before. John Gibbons from the Blue Jays. Walt Weiss is a new name. Eduardo Perez, Clint Hurdle. And the leading candidate right now seems to be a Joe Espada, the Astros bench coach, who might be the guy that gets this job. So, David, what are your thoughts on the Mets?
Yeah, man, I would look out for a Bob Melvin trade, actually. Oakland, he's under contract with Oakland. Man, if I was looking for a manager, I would make that trade. I think he is awesome. The other guys on the list, man, just don't do it for me at all. Walt Weiss, we've seen him in Colorado. I think he did have one year he went to the playoffs, but that was pretty underwhelming. What was the other name? John Gibbons. I thought he was terrible with the Blue Jays, just to be honest with you. He's kind of a head case, not a head case, but he's explosive. Let's put it that way. The Beltran thing, that's interesting. Everybody else has gotten a second chance. Why not? Cora got a second chance. Hinch got a second chance. So I can understand that move.
So Matt, you get to see the Mets a lot as a Braves fan. This year was absolutely terrible. I don't know if you saw the things that happened with the GMs. Both GMs got in trouble this year. Players were fighting. Fans and players weren't getting along. You get to see them play the Braves a lot. What are your thoughts on where the Mets are at right now? And do you think they should be in a better spot than they really are?
Yeah, I mean, I got to see him. I got to see him a little bit, but mostly just kind of game activity and whatnot. Watching that, not so much as some of what was behind the scenes, other than after the fact. But yeah, I mean, it's another one of those scenarios where I've been waiting to see them, really kind of come out of it a little bit and see something that's a little bit more promising. And it's interesting. It's always kind of a team I want to see do well, even though I don't really have any kind of necessary connection to them. But I've always just kind of wanted them to pull well. I always wanted to pull for them to see them do well. But for instance, I loved watching that 30 for 30 recently. Was it on the 86 minutes? Man, that was a lot of fun to watch. And what a wild time and exciting time for baseball. But a name that come to mind, kind of bring that back up, was always sticks out to me is Buck Showalter. And his time as an analyst, like on ESPN before the Orioles job, I really liked listening to him and grew some respect for him. Not that I shouldn't have already, but just listen to the way he looked at the game and analyzed it and talked about it. Man, I really enjoyed that. And, always kind of pull for him. So it'd be interesting to see who gets it. But I don't know that he's ever really had a lot of success as a manager that was really, notable. But anyway, still like the guy.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see, David. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I think they should do it in the next few weeks here to figure this out quick.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, they get it over with. They got a lot going on there, so they got to find a GM first. Let the GM hire his guy. Buck Showalter, I think Buck Showalter is a decent manager, but actually, Matt, I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't know that he's a championship manager. And the Mets, potentially could have a championship team. They got a lot of great players, man. You still got DeGrom, you got Thor coming back. You've got a decent bullpen coming back. You've got some pieces in place here where they could be really competitive. They just need the right guy. Now, I don't know if I would hand the keys to that to Buck Showalter, but I do think he's a decent manager. He is a great analyst. I 100% agree on that. I love to hear him on Baseball Tonight and MLB. So
he's got a very monotone voice where he doesn't really raise it or go low. He's just there, with his voice and his presence. He's even keel, man, and he manages like that a lot too. You don't see him get crazy fired up a lot. He's not one of those managers. He's just very even keel. So I don't know, man. I don't know if he's the right thing or what the Mets need with all those egos on the team right now. It'll be interesting to see which direction they go. Because like before this season, man, there was a lot of people talking Mets to the World Series, and that didn't even come close to happening. Mets and Padres, both these teams, were a lot of favorites. That's why this is so significant. Like, these were two teams that were supposed to be in the playoffs right now, like playing with the Dodgers and these guys, and it just did not happen. So both the managers lost their job, and the expectations are really high for those two teams. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. So, David, I know this is a tough portion of the show for you, especially, but we got to talk about the AL wildcard game, man. So the couple things I wanted to say about it: the 6-2 winner for the Red Sox, Garrett Cole with the loss, Nathan Eovaldi with the win. I would have never guessed that he outpitched him, but it happened. Anything can happen in one-game playoffs. So what are your overall thoughts on that game, bud?
Well, it really surprised me that Garrett Cole had a bad game. And I think it's funny to watch people hyperventilate over that. I mean, the dude was awesome all year long. He kind of had a bad stretch here at the end, but I don't think it takes away from what a great season he had, what a great pitcher he is. The second thing I'll say is in typical Aaron Boone fashion, I did not understand the lineup we stuck out there. I mean, we can't really hit anyway. And they play Higgy behind the plate, who's hitting 187, does play good defense. I can sort of understand that because my feelings on Gary Sanchez. But then they play Andrew Velasquez at shortstop, who a month ago I don't think would have been a bad idea, but he hasn't even been on the team. They just brought him up. I mean, it just blows my mind. I thought for sure if they were going to go that route, they would have played Tyler Wade at short, who's had a decent year. He's a lefty. So there was just some head-scratching things going on in there. But I tell you, from the other point of view, did it not surprise you guys when the Red Sox yanked Eovaldi? I mean, he was cruising.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what, if Big Bob would have come out there and tried to yank me at 70-some pitches in 5 shutout innings, that wouldn't have went over well. That just blew my mind. Of course, they bring Brazier in, who gave up the grand slam to Stanton, and that ball that Stanton hit is out in almost any park. It's just not out there. I think they said it would have flown about 400 feet.
Wow.
So just a head-scratching move, but obviously it worked out for him. But rough.
So I kind of think, David, that you made a good point there. Aaron Boone overmanaged. I mean, sometimes you get in the moment of, hey, this is the playoffs. I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to bring this guy and I'm going to do this, like, just because I can, because it's the playoffs. Like, I was completely shocked Velasquez was in there. And like I said, he plays great defense, but where was he the last month? He wasn't even in the lineup.
He hasn't been up. Why did they send him down in the first place? I mean, there's a whole other question. Why do you send the guy down? They were hot when he was up. The other thing, if this is true, I mean, this just makes me dislike Aaron Boone even worse. But supposedly his pitching was scripted. So if you'll remember, they brought in Clay Holmes afterwards, who threw 15 pitches in 2 shutout innings, and they pulled him. It's your last game of the year, man. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's the way the season's been all year. Overmanaging is the right word. We've talked about this all year. He changes his lineup every day. A guy will get hot, he'll sit him down. Why wasn't Giancarlo playing outfield the last half of the year? I mean, when you can't hit, why is he out of the lineup? When we're playing National League teams, there's just so much I could say right there. Like, play to win the game. If the guy gets injured and he's out the rest of the year, I mean, what are you out? You're behind anyway. But anyway, it was a rough year, man. Yankees were just so up and down. I've said it plenty of times. I hated this team. It was just so frustrating to watch. But I thought they were going to win that game, to be honest with you. With Cole going, I thought they were going to win that game. But Eovaldi was awesome. He was awesome. Throwing in the upper 90s and, just a really great performance by him.
Yeah.
Verdugo, 3 ribbies. Swor hit a bomb in that game for the Red Sox. They played well, man, and that home field advantage ended up being kind of key in that game too. It's really huge to have a one game at your field. And so, David, just to kind of real quick, I know we can't go like huge into this, but what's one of the like biggest things that this team needs moving forward? I mean, they've got the money, obviously. They can buy. Me and Matt were talking about this before we came on. It's like they've got the money to do whatever they want to do. It's monopoly money for them. So what do they need to do to improve on this? Because this is not what the Yankees expected, obviously.
I think they need athleticism. When the Yankees called up, when all those guys were on COVID, the COVID IL, and they called up guys like Greg Allen and Andrew Velasquez and those guys, man, it just sparked the team. Defense got better. Base running got better. And so that's the one thing they need a center fielder, and they're going to need a shortstop because Gleyber Torres can't play there anymore. So that would be a big help. Obviously, the balance and getting a couple lefties in the lineup helped too. I don't look for them to re-sign Rizzo, but that helped. Just having a little bit of balance. I'd like to see him get a true leadoff hitter, so LeMahieu can bat second. That's another thing I'd like to see happen. They batted Judge second all year, and that's fine, but it took him out of a bunch of RBI opportunities. I'd like to see Judge in that 3-hole, Stanton in the 4, LeMahieu batting second. And to be honest with you, they need to ditch their hitting coach, Marcus Timms. They underperformed all year. And they need to ditch Phil Nevin as the third base coach because he got guys thrown out all year. Then the perfect example of that is Judge. What are you doing running on that play?
Man.
It was so stupid. I mean, it's elementary. And he got thrown out by a mile. So those are just a few of the changes that I would make. Overall, I think their pitching staff's going to be fine. They could use another reliever or two, but I think their starting rotation is going to be fine. Everybody's back. But I'd like to see them get more athletic and get a few new coaches.
So not having DJ LeMahieu in that lineup that game was awful for them, and not having JD Martinez for the Red Sox wasn't good either. So there are two big names out in that game, but that would have definitely helped them. Matt, I cut you off. Go ahead, buddy.
No, I appreciate it. I wanted to ask. I haven't really formulated a good picture of Aaron Boone, even though I've kind of liked some of the things I've seen from him. I was excited about him taking over that role a few years back, but like you said, it wouldn't bother you if he didn't come back next year. What do you think? What would you say has been kind of the why they've kind of underperformed, or what leads you to have that kind of opinion or that position regarding him and his management?
I don't think he has a feel for the game as far as gut feelings. I think he manages 100% by the book and analytics and all of that.
Okay.
And I'm pro analytics. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think some of that's good, but just like, again, Clay Holmes, 2 shutout innings on 15 pitches, and you're pulling him. Why? It doesn't make any sense. Sometimes he'll pull starters, earlier than I feel like they should. And, a couple of things he does, I do agree with. He's been really big about giving guys days off, which is annoying sometimes because, sometimes you need guys in the lineup, but it did help keep Judge and Stanton healthy. So I agree with that, but there's got to be some give and take with that. I just don't think he's got a good feel for the game. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
So Matt, what do you think about the Red Sox lineup, man? This lineup is absolutely loaded with Xander Bogaerts, Devers, JD Martinez, Kike Hernandez, Hunter Renfroe. Like, talk about the Red Sox lineup, man. How violent is that lineup?
Yeah, and definitely, and I think we were talking about Schwarber earlier. I really like him. Just a guy I'd like to have on my team if I was building one, and but some of these guys, I've paid attention to Bogaerts for a while and been impressed with him and what he's put together, and somebody that's, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but surprising I don't hear enough about, but the more I watch him, is Kike Hernandez. And I watched a thing on him the other day, and it was him against I want to say it was have any of you ever heard of John Boy Media?
Yep.
Guy's crazy, but he really spends a lot of time. His feeds pull up all the time, but he was doing one on Kike Hernandez and I'm drawing another blank. The guy we were just pitcher for the Yankees we were just talking about that's just been excellent all year.
Garrett Cole.
Yeah. And how Hernandez just has his number and just reads Cole like a book, and the way he performs against him was really impressive. But I think some of those names have just been really impressive. Like I said, I haven't heard as much from the Red Sox, and was actually surprised that they had the kind of the year that they had. But whenever you really kind of put it out there and say, here's these names, you're like, it makes sense. It makes sense that they're contending. And but yeah, I really enjoy watching them play. Never really kind of come to a determination whether I'm an actual fan to want to see them win, but I like to watch them.
There's some mashers, man. I'll have to say there's some mashers. You look down through that lineup, and gosh, there's no break. There's no break in it. And when they signed Kike Hernandez, I thought that's the weirdest move, but all these teams that are winning are big on flexibility. You look at the Giants, they got multiple guys can play multiple positions. They maybe are switch hitters or they got a balance of right, left. And that's what the Red Sox have done. They're just so deep. What shocked me about the Red Sox is that their pitching has carried them as far as they can. I've never been a believer in it, in their pitching staff, but it's carried them this far. Now they're in the ALCS. So
yeah,
pretty cool.
You got it, man. So the other wild card game was really wild, man, and this was unbelievable. The Cardinals and the Dodgers game. Wow. We had exactly what we thought we were going to have with Scherzer and Wainwright on the mound, them two going at it. You kind of figured both of those guys being a little older that they would get through 5 and maybe into the 6th, and that would be it. That's exactly what happened with both of them. They dominated. It was awesome to see both those guys go at it for a long time there. Gotta admit, the Cardinals had me really scared there for a while because just things were just not going well offensively for the Dodgers. And when you shut the Dodgers down, you're doing something right, man. So
right.
I was telling you, David, I'm like, why is Chris Taylor not in this lineup? Matt, Chris Taylor is one of my favorite players in the world. I love that guy. Okay. He didn't play that game. I was disappointed. I was like, what in the world's going on? I know he's been in a big slump, but this guy's been there for him all year long. And I thought it was really wrong of him to do that. And it ended up working out. And, you can tell a manager how stupid he is, but, if Chris Taylor's not in the spot he is in that game, he doesn't do what he does. So tip your cap to the manager. He knew what he was doing, obviously. And the way he handled his bullpen was better, than Schultz was for the Cardinals. Just happened to work out really well for him. Alex Reyes, who gave up the bomb to Chris Taylor, was awesome all year long. He was unhittable in the first half, and he fell off big time in the second half. Ended up being the guy that gave up the walk-off. Dave Roberts, one of the best managers in the game, guys. He handled that staff in the game incredible. He got just exactly what he needed out of Scherzer. 4 in the third innings, 1 earned run. He got up to 93 pitches. Scherzer was mad. He didn't want to come out of the game, but he was done. And he kind of gave him a little bit more than I thought he was going to be honest with you. And then he went to Kelly to get out of that inning. Gratterall, Trinan, Knable, and Jansen shut the door off. No runs off the bullpen for the Cardinals. And Wainwright went 5 in the third and gave up 1 earned run. It was awesome, man. It was an awesome game. Chris Taylor came up huge. He hung a slider. He parked it into left field for a walk-off in a wild card game. You can't ask for anything better as far as fandom goes. So, Matt, what was your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I mean, really, everything from that game kind of revolves around Chris Taylor and his lid that he placed on that game. I mean, and that's most. I mean, even like here in Chattanooga, there's a Sport Talk 102.3 that I listen to regularly, and that was they remember them talking about that game as well, and because I didn't catch the end of it, but hearing how it ended with him was awesome. But I was glad to see the Dodgers win. I really like a lot of that. You find yourself sometimes, it's like I was mentioning Buck Showalter. Sometimes I'll pull for teams just because I really like the manager and the manager style, and I like how they manage the game and kind of how you see these players work, come together in this cohesive manner. That comes from somewhere. And so I've really been pulling for Dave Roberts, and I know they've been close for a while, came through last year and whatnot. So seeing him come through in that game was pretty exciting, and how it ended as well. Because I've not known a whole lot about him. I've watched Chris Taylor and kind of enjoyed watching him, and the little bit that I have, and so that was pretty awesome way to end that game.
Sure was, David. What were your thoughts on that game overall?
Yeah, man, super exciting. DJ, I got to throw this back over on you. So, Matt, one thing you got to know about DJ is he has an unhealthy, almost uncomfortable love for a few people in baseball. And one of those is Albert Pujols.
Okay.
And so me and DJ were texting back and forth. I was riding him pretty hard because Matt Beatty and Billy McKinney played ahead of Pujols. So,
okay.
DJ, I need you to comment on that. What were your thoughts on the way that Dave Roberts used Pujols and how he used him again yesterday?
Yeah, so I've been talking to Brian Howard, our good friend there, about this a lot too. And I couldn't believe it in game 1 where there's no Taylor and no Pujols. And he went Beatty and Bellinger. Bellinger's hit like 160 this year. He's been awful. And to his credit, he came up, pretty well in game 2 there for the Dodgers. But no, I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. I mean, Taylor just hit the walk-off in the wild card, and he's not in the lineup game 1. So it drove me nuts even more. I'm like, what is he doing? Like, this is your utility knife. You can put him anywhere you want out there. Like, make it work where Matt Beatty does not deserve to be out there. And Pujols is playing tonight because the lefty's on the mound, and so I'm not sure how he's doing so far. But, I was excited to see him in there. And it kind of seems like that's his role moving forward is lefty's on the mound. He will start, and he will pinch hit off the bench in other games. So, I mean, if it comes down to it in this game, David, he's going to walk off because he's Albert RBI Pujols. I mean, can you name anybody in this entire world that's had more RBI in their career than him? Yeah, you can. Only 2 guys, and that's it. So
I could think of a lot of guys this year that did. I'm just going to throw that out there. But career-wise, no. So, DJ, the second question I've got to ask both you guys, and of course, this is off the cuff. How close is Adam Wainwright to the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I mean,
it's a gray area for me. I don't know, because he's really been a guy that you want in those tight spots, those tough situations. He's performed well and when they needed him to, but I don't know. I guess
I'm thinking COVID might have cost Wainwright the Hall of Fame, just to be honest with you. He had a really good season last year. I don't know.
Yeah.
The wins magic number in days past has been 200. And I think that's fair. There's not a lot of 200 win guys. I think that puts you on the radar anyway. And that last year probably cost him 200 wins. But like I said, me and DJ talked about this a little bit through text. 5 top 5 finishes in Cy Young. Not top 10, top 5.
Yeah.
So not many guys can say that. DJ's magic number is usually 10 years or whatever of dominance. You can make an argument that he has that. You might say it's 9. But I think he's close, man. I don't know that I'm willing to put him in. I'd have to do a little more research, but I think he's real close.
Yeah. It's an impressive body of work that he has.
It really is. And you put him on my radar too, to be honest with you, because I never really thought of it from him for some reason, and he deserves it. Like if he goes out in the first ballot, that's a shame. He's got to stay on that ballot for a while so we can look at his career. I think he's got one more year coming up here, and that's going to be it for him and Yachty. So it'll be interesting to see how he does next year to kind of solidify that fact or kind of push that back a little bit. We'll see. But you're right, man. I mean, that year cost him 200 wins because he's probably going to get what if he would have combined last year and next year, he would probably get there. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen for him. But he had a year like he did this year. It's very possible. But I don't know, man. It's definitely going to be something to take a look at when his career is over. They are saying Yachty is a shoe-in. David, he's going to get in for sure. I mean, it's just going to happen. Like, there's we can fight that all we want. He's in. So his battery mate, I don't know. We'll see what they do with him and how they feel about how that is. But that's a very interesting topic you bring up there. So, all right, guys, I want to bring up the 4 series going on right now. Kind of get your thoughts on these just a little bit here. I won't go too crazy detail into these, but the first series is the one that just actually ended, the Rays and the Red Sox. So kind of a shocker, man. I thought this was going 5 games. I thought the Rays, they were the best team in the American League all year long. And we've already talked about the Red Sox a little bit, but a couple points of emphasis. Some of the things I saw in this series, man, I was watching. I got to be honest with you, out of the 4 series, this is probably the one I've seen the least of, just because I've been watching the White Sox and the Dodgers a lot there. So, but what I saw, it's crazy to me. Kike Hernandez, you were just talking about him, Matt. 7 hits in a row from Kike in this series. They couldn't get him out. I mean, he's been unbelievable for them. And Rafael Devers has got a crazy, ginormous swing, and he's killing the ball. This team is just loaded, and you expounded upon this a little bit already, Matt, but Hunter Renfroe's got over 90 ribbies. Kike Hernandez is your utility knife on that team. JD Martinez is back and healthy and had a big game here in game 4. This offense is comparable with any in the league and in the game, to be honest with you. And we knew this, David, and that's that's kind of what we talked about, but that's kind of the obvious. So from the pitching standpoint, David, Tanner Houck, wow. That guy is a
He's a
right-handed
slinger.
version of Chris Sale, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they've got both those guys. And it was awesome to see him come in and pitch in this series. He dominated. He did exactly what they needed him to do to win this series. So it's over. Boston has wrapped it up on a sac fly in the bottom of the ninth to win that game in Boston. And tonight they had 4 consecutive balls go off the Green Monster. Actually, one of them went out, and then 3 consecutive ones after that hit off the Monster. So these guys were mashing today. Shane Baz going forward for the Rays is a stud. That guy is an amazing pitcher. So they found another gem there. Wander Franco was huge in this series for the Rays. The Rays are coming back, man, and they will be back again next year. But what a series. So I'll start with you, David. What were your thoughts overall?
Super surprising, man. I thought the Rays were going to dominate this. But you know how you look at their team sometime and like, man, how are they doing this? And I think it caught up with them a little bit, just to be honest with you. A lot of these, I don't want to call them no-name pitchers, but guys you've never heard of, they didn't do well this game. Tonight's culprit was Shane McClanahan. He gave up 5 runs. He's had a pretty good season, but he's in that group of I've never heard of this guy. So I think honestly it just kind of caught up to him a little bit. And like we've talked about, the Red Sox can just hit. So good pitching does beat good hitting, but good hitting spread out that long can get to good pitching as well. So I think that's what we saw.
Yeah, that's the key, man, is they don't give you a break. That one lineup 1 through 9 is just unbelievable. So Matt, what are your thoughts on that series?
Yeah, really, I kind of what comes to mind is, again, I agree with David. I mean, I thought that the Rays would be standing a little bit taller at the end of this thing. But again, it comes back again, the same idea that I didn't expect the Red Sox to have the kind of year they had. Just didn't expect. I thought they would be kind of lackluster, or at least not really meet any kind of expectations. But yet again, here they do. They're proving me wrong, at least for sure. So I'll have to leave it at that. They just continue to come through.
Yep. Hey, listen, you got to give Alex Cora some credit here, right? I mean, I hate to admit it, but the guy knows how to win.
Yeah.
The guy knows how to win. I don't know. He's got the mojo. He knows how to manage the personalities and stuff. I don't really understand how that works, but he obviously can do it. And every move he makes seems to be the right one. So, man, you got to hand it to him. And you got to remember, 2 years ago, the Red Sox tore this thing down. That's the talk in the New York papers right now is the Yankees kept their core and the Red Sox traded it all out. Who would have thought after trading Mookie Betts and those guys 2 years later, here they are in the ALCS. So,
yeah,
kudos to them. What do you think about it, DJ?
Yeah, I mean, that we talked about that trade a lot, and then they got a lot from that trade for sure, and it's starting to work out a little bit for them. Maybe more than I thought, and I hate to admit that, but you gave up one of the best players in the game. So they did get a good bring back from him, and man, this team is dangerous moving forward. Looks like they might get the Astros here, so that's going to be a great matchup of some powerhouse offenses, and it's going to come down to that pitching with those two teams, and who's going to pitch better. But we'll see. Chris Sale got rocked in his only outing. He lasted 1 inning, gave up 5 earned runs. So if Chris Sale pitches like that, they're in trouble, man. They got to have better outing from him moving forward, and I think they will. But if you can't go to him, then you go to the righty version of him and try to piece the game together that way, I guess. And that seems to work. So, yeah, I mean, here we go. That Boston's in the Final Four, and it's a little bit surprising, but when you look at it on paper, not as much as you would think. So, Dodgers and Giants guys are into Game 3 right now. Longoria just hit a bomb to put them up 1-0 in this game off Max Scherzer. So they lead. Evan Longoria is drinking from the fountain of youth for the Giants there. These guys are good, no doubt. Game 1, Logan Webb dominated. The Dodgers had no answer for him. He completely took the ball and ran with it. And I'll do with Walker Buehler, who gave up a bomb into the ocean by Buster Posey on a 3-0 count, which was crazy. He got the green light. And these guys that are just a wily veterans who've been doing it consistently for the years, your Longorias, your Posies, keeping these Giants in it. This is a matchup of 107 and 106 win teams here. What a great matchup. Two best teams statistically in baseball are playing each other right now. What an awesome series so far. Urias pitched well for them in game 2, got the win for the Dodgers, get them back on the board. It was awesome, man. What a great comeback win for the Dodgers. They needed that to get that win there in San Francisco and go 1-1, which is what you want to do in a 5-game series, is sneak one away on the road, and the Dodgers did that. And it looks like game 3 is going to be really good here down the wire. And so what are some of your thoughts of this series, David?
Man, I just think this is going to set up to be something epic. I really do. I love both of these teams, really. I've said for weeks, the Giants are just so interesting to me because it's so unexpected, unorthodox. I don't know what else you could use there. I just think this is going to set up to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. It doesn't surprise me at all that Longoria hit a home run. Like I said, it's just these veterans, man. I don't know. It's fun to watch. It's fun for me to watch the Giants. As you can tell, I'm kind of pulling for them, but I think this is going to be an epic series.
Matt, what are your thoughts, bud?
Yeah, when it comes to the Giants, even a few years back when they won a couple World Series there, and it was kind of like, I feel the same way this year. Even though they've been excited, they've really had an incredible year. Whenever they win, it's always kind of like, oh, I feel like it was just left undone. Like it just wasn't as good as it could have been. That's how I always feel about them.
Yep.
But man, I mean, really impressive. And I'm excited to see what kind of happens here, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm really kind of siding one way or another or hoping to see one side, but I like the Dodgers, like I was talking about Dave Roberts. But I like, again, they were talking about these veterans. I like seeing them put things together and kind of seeing that experience and all that they can bring to the table kind of come to fruition. So it's fun to watch. And I've been a Longoria fan for a long time, so I like to see him do well.
Yep. So DJ, how bad was it hurting your heart that first game when the Giants won? I mean, obviously you're a Giants guy. What were you thinking?
Yeah, that was tough, man. No doubt. I was mad about Taylor not playing, to be honest with you. I kept going back to that. Chris Taylor not in the lineup. Pujols.
I'm telling you, hey Matt, it's unhealthy. There's just something weird about it. It's too far. It's over the line.
Yeah, pushing it here.
Matt Beatty, of all people, and Bellinger, who's hitting 160, are in the lineup over the second most RBI in the history of the game. And the guy who just walked off for you, I didn't get it. Ended up biting him in the butt a little bit in game 1, but he came back with the right guys in game 2 and did a good job managing. So they ended up pulling that one off. So I'm with you guys. This is going 5. It's going to be a great series. I'm looking way forward to seeing who gets out of this. Is going to definitely be the favorite moving forward. So it'll be very interesting to see. So the White Sox and the Astros. So this has been one-sided till they got back to Chicago, David. And yesterday was a butt whooping. Luis Garcia, 4 RBI yesterday, 3-run homer to put them up in that game. They took off after being down 5-1, I believe. They came back and won 12-6 in a 4.5-hour game. I couldn't believe how long that game went, man. Some of these American League games just go on forever, man. And all the pitching changes and you got 2 very old managers right there, so they don't move very fast either. And they tend to have some very long ball games going on, and that was definitely one of them. Today, rained out. We've had monsoons all day today. There was no way they were getting this game in today, so they will play tomorrow at like 1 o'clock, I believe, maybe 12 o'clock. It's very early tomorrow that they're going to play that game and try to get it in with all the rain we had today. But I don't know, man. You can't really like where the White Sox are right now. The Astros put a hurting on them in the first 2 games. That offense is just going crazy. Dylan Cease was terrible in game 3. Didn't pitch very well. Michael Kopech came in and did pitch well. Imagine that. He should be starting for them. I've been preaching that for a long time. I don't know what they're doing with that. But what are your overall thoughts on this series, David?
Well, the one thing that makes me think the White Sox have a chance in this is Dusty Baker wears rubber gloves the whole game. And so, listen, I'm pro like staying away from COVID. But it doesn't take a genius to figure out if you wear those gloves the whole game, they're going to have germs on them. And COVID doesn't seep through your pores. And so it makes me really question Dusty's intelligence. The second thing I've been really surprised about is how bad the White Sox pitching has been, which, I mean, I guess is a testament to how good the Houston Astros are. But, man, I just never thought that Lance Lynn, for instance, would get lit up like he got lit up, and that Giolito would look as human as he did. And so that's been the big takeaway for me. I've just been really surprised. You know, the bullpen I thought was so deep, and Kimbrell got lit up, and can't remember the other guy. They got lit. Aaron Bummer, who's been good all year, got lit up. That's the big takeaway for me. Is just I've just been really disappointed in their pitching. But hey, if your manager wears rubber gloves, you have a chance.
Matt, what are your thoughts, man?
That's good for me. I haven't kept up with this particular series very much, other than just kind of what the record was, but and then seeing that 12-6 game the other day. So just even the score, but I'm kind of like he was talking about with Lance Lynn. That's a surprise. I think where it's sitting right now was a surprise to me. I kind of expected the White Sox to be more like the Rays in this series myself, and I don't know if that sounds entirely ignorant, but I've just been really kind of impressed with them and what they've done, and thought they were just going to be carrying it through. But hey, Astros came to play, so we'll see how it goes, see how it finishes out.
So we've
DJ,
talked. Go ahead, David.
Why don't you comment on the 10th man there at the White Sox game? I mean, that crowd was rocking. Everything you told me about White Sox fan was wrong.
Well, let me tell you, I haven't seen a lot of those faces in the stands since 2005. I'll just leave that at that.
Yeah.
I've never seen that stadium that packed, man.
It was awesome.
Complete garbage. They're all coming out of the woodworks, the bandwagon. Hey, I was there in 2005. I'm there now. So I don't know what that all is about. But one of the things I do want to talk about, David, is we talked about this a little bit before, is Tony La Russa in game 2, I believe, with Bummer getting rocked. I'm sorry, man, but I kind of called this. I was sitting there watching the game. I'm like, why is he bringing Bummer in? You got the 7th, 8th, 9th inning. You got to use Kimbrel and you got to use Hendricks. Like, you don't have to go one inning with those guys anymore. This is the playoffs, man. Guys are going to be asked to do what they, aren't necessarily always asked to do. You got to pitch a little bit longer. Go with the hot hand. Like, if they're pitching and they're dominating, why are you taking them out? Just because they're a one-inning guy? No. That's your best pitcher. You stay with him. Like, handling this bullpen and handling this pitching is the single hardest thing to do as a manager. I will give you that. It's my hardest job as a coach to handle pitching. I will say that to the day I die. It's the hardest thing to do. But in the playoffs, man, you can't, like you were talking, analytics. This guy goes here. This guy goes there. No. Go with the heart. Go with your gut. This guy can go 4 batters. Hendricks has done it in the regular season. He's gone 5 batters. Why are these guys not doing that in the playoffs? You got Kimbrel. And Kimbrel got rocked mainly because his defense was bad, first of all. There was a terrible play that led to him getting runs off of him that shouldn't have happened. But I don't know. I feel like La Russa needs to handle the end of that game a little bit better with the guys that he's got, those 2 horses out there. You ride those guys and nothing else. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Win the game you're in, not to get in the next game.
You got it, man. It's the playoffs. So the last series we got here, Braves Brewers. My man Matt here is a Braves fan. So today was the Jock Peterson story, man. 3-run bomb to win the game for the Braves today, to take a 2-1 lead in this series. And David, I've been a little surprised by the Brewers pitching, and we were really high on their pitching coming into this series. Other than the game 1 where they dominated, obviously, pitching has been pretty bad for the Brewers as well. And one of the things I take out of this series, too, is Christian Yelich is just not Christian Yelich anymore. And I don't know what it is. I think he's just – the back is shot more than he's kind of leading on, I guess. But he is not who we thought he was, and he's not, unfortunately, been the same since he's gone down with that issue. But, Matt, I kind of want to go to you on this one. What are your thoughts on your Bravos?
They continue to impress me. I mean, they spent so much of the year kind of looking at this. They spent so much of the year kind of trying to fight for that 500 mark. and that seemed like they would take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And so this series, really not all that surprised. I expected there to be pretty good performances. I think the Braves are gonna. Obviously, I think they're going to take it. That's an interesting point you mentioned about Yelich, because it's like he was just at the top of the mountain. All of a sudden now it's like, who? So that's been a little bit of a surprise. But I think the Braves are in a real good position. I mean, some of the guys they got from Riley, Freeman, of course, Albies. I mean, these guys have just been putting up great numbers. What's his name? Center fielder. Of course, I'm drawing a blank again.
Cunha,
Well, no, he's out, but
Soler, Peterson, Duvall.
yeah, Duvall. These guys have been, and Peterson. That was a real hot topic of conversation today. Is even hearing some, similar to the Chris Taylor scenario. I mean, somebody I'm trying to remember I was in conversation with, and they were talking about why he wasn't in the lineup, about this or that or something or other. But I really like him. I was excited for that pickup. So glad to see he came through like he did today.
No doubt. David, what are your thoughts so far, man?
Well, I'll say this. You'd mentioned about the Brewers pitching. It really hasn't been that bad. I don't think any team scored more than 3 runs or maybe 4. The Brewers, Christian Yelich is what's standing between them and the World Series. And I believe that 100%. They just need a big bopper who he was supposed to be. And for whatever reason, he can't be it.
Yeah.
The Braves, I'm not surprised they're winning. When Acuna went down, that hurt. But like we talked about the last episode, the trade deadline, they did awesome filling the holes that they had. And, the big weakness, the one thing I really worry about with the Braves is that bullpen. I don't think I trust it that much. I don't think it's a World Series bullpen, but they got some World Series players, and it's cool to see them, all come together.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun here as we make these 8 teams go down to 4 here really quick. The next few days, it's going to be a lot of fun moving forward here to get to the NLCS and the ALCS. Best time of the year, guys. This is it right now. It's awesome. And so, Matt, we're on the portion of the show where we're going to talk about you a little bit. So first of all, right along the lines of the Braves, just talk a little bit to us about your Braves fandom just for a second here. How did you become a Braves fan? Who were your favorite players growing up in the Braves team?
Oh, definitely started with the that postseason triumph of was it 91? Sid Bream coming around, scoring at home plate. That was really it. I mean, that's when actually up until that point, I was 89, 90s when I really started paying attention to it. Started, gravitating toward and watching, looking for games every time the TV was on. It was always the Oakland Athletics interesting. I loved Canseco and McGuire and Carney Lunsford and all Ricky Henderson, all those guys, loved them. Dave Stewart. But really, during that pennant race and all that, when the Braves were really the highlight of that, of our area in the Southeast. I wasn't even living in necessarily quite in the area at that time, but loved it. Those guys, I mean, really, Steve Avery always comes to mind for that time. Was one of my favorites. Dave Justice, really liked Dave Justice. Ronnie Gant. They just really kind of stand tall to me during that time frame. And I would say some other guys that I really liked watching play over the years. Of course, you got Chipper. I mean, I like Chipper, and I like some of those other guys, but I would say even some of the guys they got now, it's been as exciting for me as it really has been, since I've been watching them. And it's been real fun. Some of the like Acuna, I've been real impressed with Albies and Freeman, of course, been around for a while. So that's been exciting. But it was I wouldn't say necessarily a dead period, but there was a period for quite a few years where there was just not really a whole lot going on there that was really notable, obviously. And but I kind of like where they are. It's exciting time for them. So it's a good time for Braves baseball.
No doubt, man. So let's talk about your career now. So start with us in high school, the freshman Matt Locklear, and go through your high school days with us. Kind of give us a little synopsis of your entire baseball career there for high school, who you played for, your coach, how your team was, all that good stuff. Go for it, my man.
Yeah, small school, Copper Basin High School, and Southeast Tennessee, and head coach was Coach Todd Rollins. I think the world of him. I hold him in the highest of regard. He was difficult for me at first because it was very hard to figure out. He was one of those coaches where it was hard to figure out how to relate to him. At the same time, I'm trying to figure out, so much is happening in your life as a freshman. Everything is new, and you're trying to figure out your place. And so it was a little bit of a different transition. And he really had a system, and either you needed to figure out how you fit into that or find your way out. But I ended up coming to love the man, and certainly as a father figure, among other things, as a coach and mentor. But that freshman year was a period of time, speaking of that as I go forward, but it was a time where it was almost a decision time where I was trying to decide, do I want to do this? Do I actually enjoy this game? Because I wasn't really sure. But did okay, pitched quite a bit, played some third base, I remember that year, and was able to contribute. It was a small team. We had a small team, single A high school. But I think we had 14 guys. 13 or 14 guys. So, I mean, we had some guys, and we competed. We probably hung around the 500 range, I want to say. And it was very similar going into the sophomore year. Sophomore year, honestly, I don't even remember a whole lot about it. I played much more regularly at that time. My bat started coming around more. I started getting more comfortable at the plate. Speaking of, one thing I noticed in my high school days was something that stayed with me, going forward for the rest of the time, was as a hitter, it took me a while to acclimate to the game. And I'm talking at least 20 at bats before I got to the point where I was comfortable at the plate. And it needed to be consistent at bats, not spread out over a period of time, or else I just kind of go back into this where I'm just out of whack. I just don't feel comfortable not seeing the ball. I'm guessing at the plate. I'm just watching pitches and just hoping that when I swing, that I made the right decision. So not a good place to be, but that's where I would be regularly. And I started noticing that, especially going into my junior year. I'd come out of Little League going into all this. My pitching, I developed early in 11, 12, 13, 14. I developed early, and I was very dominant on the mound. Once I started going into my freshman, sophomore year, I really kind of started to peak. I just plateaued a little bit, and not a whole lot more development even after that. But junior year was a good year. I actually played third base regularly during that year, hit the ball well, hit the ball for power pretty well. I was earned all district, all region, I think, or all region tournament, something like that. I can't remember. Felt good. It was a really good confidence builder going into my senior year. We played well. We played played for the district championship that year. I don't remember even how we didn't win the district, but anyway, had a good year, had a good team, had some good ball players. And then going into we had the three seniors we had that year were really, really solid guys that you want on your team. So it was a little question mark what it was going to be like going into the next year and what our new guys were going to be. But my senior year was a great year. Again, off to a slow start, but ended up hitting the ball well, throwing well, had an overall good year, solid year. We were runner up in the district, went into the region tournament, and just kind of fell apart really. And we should have won that game. We were a talented team. I don't remember what our record was, but we were well above 500. And I think you mentioned y'all last year you had what, like 35, 36 games, something like that. We were 10 less than that. I think we might have had a 25 game season just about every year. So So yeah, I mean, we really underachieved that year, and coach was a great coach. He was one of those coaches that was really big on trying to have the right attitude and frame of mind and the principles of the game rather than the technicalities of the game. And so he was a motivator. I mean, there were times where I would step in the plate, and I'm telling you, he would come down the line and just, I mean, I thought he was going to come 2 or 3 feet off the ground, just really fist pumping it, trying to get you pumped up, and it did. I just fed off of that, and you wanted to try to carry that into the plate appearance or whatever it was you were doing. So that was fun, but had a good year that year, and was able to carry a lot with me. But I would say something about those times where coach he was technical to an extent, but he was constantly more focused on how well you were prepared mentally as well as physically for the games. So there were some things I especially going into college, that was a little bit of I was behind on in some areas, and where, that I learned a lot, but it had a really good foundation for learning going into college after that. But yeah, loved that time, loved that coach. I'd run through a wall for him.
That's awesome, man. It makes a difference when you play for somebody in high school that has your back and you think the world of. That's awesome story, man, for sure. So
Yeah.
Your senior year ends, man, and you are heading to the college route. So talk to us about any looks you were getting and how you ended up at Tennessee Temple as our teammate.
Yeah, what an interesting route that was. I wasn't really getting a whole lot of attention for baseball. I mean, there was a little bit here and there. Most of it was for football. We were a football-oriented school. I played quarterback, so I got a lot of attention. Not that I was necessarily that great, but our coaches were very promotional of our efforts. I mean, they'd send tapes out and stuff, but we didn't even know about it. But I actually started getting recruited by Tusculum College for football. And on my first official visit up there, which, if you're not familiar, Tusculum's it's a Division II school up in Greenville, Tennessee, in between Knoxville and Jefferson, Johnson City. And so went for official visit while we were there. It was my brother and I that were up there. And he said, hey man, why don't we go see if we can find the baseball field? So we went on a little journey. Sure enough, we found it. Coach Jones, the second or third year head coach there, now the athletic director there, he was out there working on the field, and he came over. We were sitting out there walking around a little bit, and he came over and spoke to us, and we introduced himself, told him my interest, what I was doing there. And next thing you know, he said, well, let's stay in touch. I'll come watch you play. And I thought, you're not going to have it's going to be so far out of your way to come where I'm going to be playing. It's just not going to happen. Sure enough, we were playing Charleston. As a matter of fact, where Stephen played, and that was our arch rival, and they were always the target. But we were playing them at home, and all of a sudden, here comes these two coaches. Everybody thought they were from the University of Tennessee because they were orange. They're orange and black and had the orange tee on there, but that's the same colors as Tusculum was, orange and black. And but no, it was Coach Jones and Coach Ireland. They came down and watched for 2 or 3 innings. I was pitching, as a matter of fact, watched me have a couple of at-bats. A week later, Coach Jones calls me and says, hey, we want to offer you a chance to come play for us. And I I signed with them, got to go up there and played for 2 years. And so, long story short, not to spend a whole lot of time around that, learned a tremendous amount about the game. These guys went from this very principle, big picture type of atmosphere and environment of coaching to this very, very almost scientific approach to the game that Coach Jones and Ireland and all them took to leading that team. I mean, the technical aspects of hitting and was just so much more. It was almost like I needed a textbook to learn some of it, but it was fascinating. I learned a tremendous amount. And then after 2 years, after my sophomore year, had some things in the personal life at home, especially with my mother, that kind of also contributed to me feeling the need to come closer to home, which led me to, we were at home one day during the summer after my sophomore year. And I remember I said, well, what am I going to do? What do I do now? I want to keep playing. She said, right out of the blue, just right over. She said, why not Tennessee Temple? And I thought, okay, and that was it. I mean, that's what really started. Next thing you know, the next day we're on the phone with Coach Hall. And so that started that process from going there. It's just by reaching out, and one thing led to the next. And that's kind of how I ended up there. And I remember my first week, I was thinking, I remember calling my mom and saying, this is different, Ma. I don't know what to think about this, and she said, just give it a semester and see what you think. And I'm thankful every day that I did. It worked out wonderfully, and I'm thankful for that time and the people, and what I learned there was tremendous.
That's awesome, man. So you get to Tennessee Temple. Talk about playing for Coach Hall.
Yeah. Well, it was very different. I mean, you go from this very, very strategic, structured, organized approach that they took at Tusculum. I mean, it was almost regimental in their approach. And so to Coach Hall, which is manning this, I mean, there was 4 coaches up there. Now you go to Coach Hall, he's manning this whole thing by himself. And I remember thinking, man, this is going to be interesting. And how does he even recruit? Things like that are questions that have come into my mind. But it was fun. It was so much fun being a part of that team. It was much more fun that I wouldn't say was lacking from where I came from. It was much more fun, as in the sense of that's what we were out to do. We were out to win some ball games, but we're going to enjoy our time doing it. We're going to learn a little bit along the way. And but one thing about Coach Hall, I would say that I definitely appreciated, was he didn't try to he didn't try to overmanage. I didn't think he ever tried to overcoach, overanalyze. And a lot of times, I mean, you would see lineup changes. We had pretty much a regular rotation. But I thought he really just tried to put his trust in the guys, put them out there and let them play the game. And you do a lot of the coaching during practice, and he didn't do a tremendous amount of coaching that I remember during the games, constantly coming back in the dugout, doing this. It was, hey, we do that at practice. Let's get out here and just play. And, we'll work through whatever it is we deal with. But it made the game time fun and less pressurized, I would say. And it was a good experience.
For sure, man. So tell everybody out there what positions you played for Temple.
Yeah, I pitched. I started and both came in relief at certain times, and mostly played third base. I played some shortstop. I didn't quite have the range that I really needed at shortstop, at the college level, I would say. But third base, I always usually felt a little bit more comfortable with. And even my last year, I played after an arm injury that I had, that I remember very vividly when I was at shortstop playing against Lee. It wasn't an injury. It was one that was already there. It just really manifested there, which took me out for about I don't remember how long it was now that I'm thinking about it. It was 4 to 6 weeks I was out. But I came back and played even a little bit of first base. You're talking about feeling out of place. Being at first base was one of those places where it just felt foreign. I've crossed the border into a foreign country. That's how I felt. But most of my time, I guess, looking back, was probably spent at third base. So.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So talk about some of your favorite teammates. You don't have to even bring me and David into this. Just go ahead and go. Some of the favorite guys you had when you were at Temple. Teammates.
Well, definitely not honestly out of a coincidence, but you two were kind of very prevalent. I mean, always very prevalent. I remember things in certain games. I always remember always being confident when David was on the mound, and he was one of those guys that was just consistent, always in and out. And you knew what you were going to get. You knew he was going to give you a chance to win. And that was always something that was always there, kind of in the back of my mind. The same thing about you, DJ, was being a gamer. I mean, you were always you speaking of know what you were going to get, you were always going to leave that field dirty and probably wore out. And I love, and I'll say this for the record, I love that you dove for head first. I mean, for first base, head first into first base. I love it. Still to this day, I'll argue it for as long as I live. So just want to throw that out there. You know, a character that really sticks out to me all the time, and I guess always will, is Mishaw, and sure would love to connect with him. You know, that would certainly be something I would really look forward to. And I know I reached out to you last year about that, about him not being with us anymore. But there's so much in my life, even today, that I think about that's carried over from him, and from memories and laughs to him constantly saying "busted" and reading the newspaper on the trips, going to and from games. You always had that newspaper out, and you always sit in the same spot, kind of back towards the left at the window. And he was a staple for kind of an atmosphere, you know, kind of driver, I guess you could say it. And so, yeah, sure. I mean, he, as a teammate, I would say, or as a competitor on the field, but more so kind of the individual he was and how he impacted the team was always just so heavy to me, and something I carry with me all the time. And occasionally, even after we were finished school, he would continue to reach out to me every once in a while. We stayed connected for some time, and just to nothing about, hey, this or that, just, hey man, how you doing? And it was always appreciated that. But yeah, I mean, those are some people. Of course, Hart, you know, roommate, teammate for at least a little bit of time. Brian Heel, Rulapaw. And of course, I didn't play with Howard, but I played with Morgan. But yeah, I mean, of course, you know, you got Ben Foster, some of those guys. I mean, the guy was just so zeroed in and focused all the time. You didn't know if he was mad or terrified, but he was just so focused all the time, and he was all business all the time. So yeah, a lot of characters, a lot of personalities, a lot of fun. So really enjoyed it.
That's awesome, man. Very cool. I didn't have any. Do you have any questions, David, or is there any other?
I just want to know some good DJ stories. Obviously, you got to see a side of DJ that most of us never got to see. So give us a good DJ roommate story.
I would say, you know, he for the most part, for the roommate, if you ever wanted a roommate that was kind of like the dream roommate, it was probably DJ. He never caused problems. He never made a bunch of noise. He probably did more putting up with than anybody else putting up with him. I mean, he was like one of the quietest guys ever. And but I remember just being thankful for him and appreciating it, and how he just really a lot of times just had to go along with us. Sometimes I think he was just trying to wait out to the end. I'm going to deal with these guys. I'm going to survive, and I'm going to get through it. But hey, I'll say the air band. What did we what did we call that air band? It was air supply. Air supply. Yep. After the what was it, 70s or 80s band?
Yeah.
But us randomly, you know, pulling out this band and just kicking to a song for whatever reason, and he was always right there with us, and some of mine and Hart's randomness and some of that stuff, and he was right there with us. So that was a lot of fun. But really, I don't have anything shocking. I mean, DJ was just cool, calm, and collected all the time. So
did he play his air band with his Muppet socks on?
No, I don't think I would tell that either way. That's secret safe with me.
He still wears them, Matt. It blows my mind. We had an episode a few back, and I brought up the Muppet socks, and sure enough, the kids confirmed those still exist, still to this day.
Yeah, I don't like wearing socks against my toes. It feels bad. So I know Matt's seen that floppy socks.
Like 6 inches,
yes.
DJ? I mean, like
yes.
6 inches? I mean, what is
so
that?
True. I forgot all about that. It's just one of those things I thought, for me, I was just kind of like, whatever, whatever. Hey, whatever you want to do, man.
You're too easy going, Matt. You should have busted him on it.
I'll tell you this though, Matt and Jason would have some conversations that would just crack me. I just sat back and laughed when those two go at it. There's not much more that is funny than watching those two go at it. Those personalities. And the biggest sarcastic guy that there is in this world is Jason Hart. I love him to death, but man, these two it was so much fun to listen to you two guys talking and debating about everything going on in this entire world. And it was truly a joy to be a fly on the wall for all of that.
We would have some intense topics and discussions and it's funny is that you were kind of like, you just kind of hung out there and just kind of thought, we'll see where this thing's going to go, see how deep this rabbit hole goes, but that was a lot of fun. And it didn't take much sometimes to really get old Hart going. He would, that energy level got up, and you can get him fired up pretty easy. So a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, Matt. Well, it was great to have you on, buddy. It was a privilege to do this, man. Thank you for finally doing this with us. We really appreciate it, man. We will not be rooting very hard for your Braves. I won't anyways, but I hope for your sake that they do well. So that your team can do well going down the stretch here. And David, from the time our last show to this show, as both of your teams are exit stage left here. So White Sox are out, man. They're
not
done.
Yet.
This is over. They got no shot. So, and the Red Sox are going to win it all. And I'm going to be the happiest man alive. It's going to be the worst season for you ever then. So
we'll see. We
will see. Well, Matt, once again, thank you, buddy. Everybody like our page. Please subscribe. And we will see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Enjoyed it.